Welcome everyone to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling. Sarah's with me once again, and this is an episode, the type of episode we like doing, the top 10 song lists. We're not alone. We've got our dogs with us, Stella and Rufus, and they may or may not get along. You may hear them in the background, but we love them, so here they are.
You make it sound like they don't get along.
No, they do.
They do, but there's a big age difference, and he's...
When they don't get along, it's explosive. Or it can be. So.
Well, he's a lot bigger than her.
Yeah. So. Anyway, why are we here? We're here to count down our top 10 favorite Queen songs, and this was not easy. I think this is one band that we could probably do Volume 2, Volume 3, and never repeat any songs they had.
Our whole family enjoys them.
Yeah, this is a band that we can all, go to see, like a Queen tribute or Classic Albums Live doing a Queen album and enjoy it.
And the kids love them.
Yeah. So it's pretty special, and I mean, obviously they're one of the most amazing, pioneering groups that's within the rock genre. They did just about every type of song. So we have a lot of singles that we're going to talk about, but their singles weren't like other bands' singles.
No, I was just gonna say the variation that you get in terms of, like, you can go from, because I know you've got some hard rock songs on yours, all the way to ballads and
all four
quirky little songs.
Yeah, all four of the guys in Queen wrote, and they all wrote very different types of songs, and yet as soon as they come on, that that they're Queen. So I'm not saying anything everybody doesn't already know about Queen. They're amazing, but trying to actually do a top 10 list was not the easiest thing. So I'll let Sarah start off with her number 10.
So number 10 for me is Another One Bites the Dust, which, like Tim said, that's a pretty predictable choice. But it's fun. It's like...
It's amazing how it has, transcended generations. Everybody just seems to know Another One Bites the Dust. I know it's a little overplayed, but it's one of the earliest popular songs I remember liking when it was new. As a matter of fact, the first time I heard it may just have been in this form right here, because I'm pretty sure my cousin Kevin, I know he had the 45, but I think he had the 8-track version of it too. It's not this one, but this was pretty beaten up. This was from their most popular album that wasn't a greatest hits, and that song had a lot to do with it.
I think it's important to call it out too, is like sports rock anthems.
Yeah.
And I know it's typically in conjunction with We Are the Champions, obviously, but...
Well, yeah, they're good at coming up with those types of songs that, people can relate to in those situations. I'm going to change it up quite a bit for my number 10, the first track on one of my favorite Queen albums, from the Jazz album, sung in Arabic or Parsi. I'm not sure the language, but the song is Mustafa, and it kicks off this very, very... with a band that had a catalog of quirky albums. Jazz might just be the quirkiest. I love it, every second of this album. So that's the first. It's fast paced. It's got heavy parts. It's got, I don't know what you'd call them parts, but I love Mustafa. It's one of my favorites.
I don't know that one, I don't think, very well. Obviously I've heard it, but anyway. Number 9 for me is Who Wants to Live Forever.
Get this vinyl out. This very, very 80s-ish looking album.
I don't know if I've ever seen
a kind of magic. It's like the 80s exploded on the front and back cover, and not to mention the gatefold. It's almost Disney looking.
It is. It makes me think of the Hercules animation a little bit. So you have it from this, but I know it from the Highlander soundtrack. Yeah,
well, a lot of the songs on this album, as a matter of fact, most of them are on the Highlander soundtrack. But yeah, it was kind of the theme, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was, the love theme.
Yeah, because this has Princes of the Universe and Gimme the Prize, and a lot of the songs on the Kind of Magic. There was a little bit of, is it an album? Is it a soundtrack? But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a reason for that. But it's a typically epic Queen ballad.
It's lovely.
It's a Brian May song. Yeah, okay, so I'm gonna go actually stick with this album, although it's a song that had come out a year previous on the soundtrack of another movie, Iron Eagle, and it's One Vision, and it's always been one of my favorite heavy rocking Queen songs. They opened their final tour with Freddie with the song, and it just gets the blood pumping. It's another anthem. They were really good at writing anthems, and that song was written after their sort of triumphant performance at Live Aid. They were really pumped up, went to the studio and did this song.
You can't blame them for being pumped up. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Not that we were there, but we've seen the...
Certainly we're not there. No.
No, we were not. We've seen the footage. Number 8 for me is Radio Gaga.
I just got the 45 for this. This is you know what? I bet you this was the second Queen song I ever heard.
I was going to say, it's probably the first for me.
Yeah.
I remember
I remember
it.
seeing the video.
Sort of.
With the black and white footage from the old Metropolis movie, and then they're on the big, I don't know what you'd call it, and everybody clapping. And
That's what I associate it with, like any of the time. Obviously, we have not seen the actual band and concert, but whenever we've seen the tributes, it's an awful lot of fun, that particular song.
Number 8 is another deep cut that I've always loved from the first time I heard it. Another one of my favorite Queen albums, News of the World from 1977. I think when I did my 1977 episode, this was my second favorite album of that year. But the song is a Roger Taylor song called Fight from the Inside. And this is one of the songs where Roger wrote it, sang it. I think he played everything on it, all the guitars, bass, and drums. These guys were just geniuses. But it's heavy, it's funky. If you're only familiar with Queen singles, you might hear it and not realize it's Queen, because Roger had a very different sounding voice. He had the cool, raspy voice. But it's one of my favorites of his songs. So that's my number 8.
So none of mine are going to be deep cuts. Let's be real about it. I don't think. No. So number 7 for me is Under Pressure. And it's one that, even though it does get a lot of play, I don't get sick of it.
Yeah. Originally on the Greatest Hits, but it's also on the Hot Space record, duet with Bowie. And
there's so much to love about it.
Oh, you know, I think I like it more now than I did. Well, when I first got into Queen in the early 90s, everybody knew that was the song that Vanilla Ice sampled. And kind of left it at that, but it's really it's a remarkable song, and it's too bad that like both the band and Bowie had always say, "Oh, I wish we'd have done more with it." I like exactly what they've done with it. I think they've always felt the lyrics were incomplete, but I love the scatting and the I think it says a lot with a few words, and yeah, it's a favorite of the whole family. We all
love it.
Really love it. Yeah, probably hear from that again. My number 7 is one of my favorite Queen ballads, Brian May song, "Save Me" from The Game. Again, it's essentially, I would almost call it a power ballad, and this is 1980, and it was a hit single in the UK, but not in North America. But not only is it like a ballad, but it's also it's anthemic, and anthem is a word that gets used a lot with Queen, because they wrote these choruses that just sort of stirred the soul. I don't know how else to say it, but it's one of my.
I think that's accurate.
It's one of my favorites from them.
I just took a picture of the dog.
Yeah, this is what's happening while we're.
He is laying down,
Yeah,
so I'm thankful
they
for
like
that.
they like to know where they like to be close to you, as any dog owner would know.
Yes.
So you're number 6.
Don't Stop Me Now.
We're going back to the very quirky, very fun jazz album for a song that's way more popular now than it was when it first came out, like at least in North America, because this song peaked at number 79 on Billboard when it was released as a single. It was a hit in the UK, but it's got a new life, and I don't know if I don't know what brought it back to life. Was it used in some soundtracks, or they started doing it with Adam Lambert, but like people know "Don't Stop Me Now," and it's almost become like a Queen standard.
Is that the one that Paul Rudd did?
Yes.
So that, I think, was kind of viral, and I would think it would be very difficult to sing.
Oh, it's all over the place,
Because Mar did it,
range-wise.
didn't she? Like our daughter.
Yeah. it's all over the place vocally, and for a man to sing
Fast.
it's low, it's high, it's dynamic. It's a show tune basically.
It kind of
it's a
is,
show
but-
tune. Freddie wrote it. It's not from anything, but it's a show tune.
It's probably why I like it. I
It's-
don't know, it's fun, and there's so many different components to it,
Yeah.
and I like the lyrics. I just enjoy it.
It's fun.
fantastic.
Yeah, Mr. Fahrenheit and
Mr.
all of
Fahrenheit,
that.
Lady
Yeah.
Godiva.
Yeah.
Spoke just no. Which one is the spoke just like a baroness? It's
That's
not good.
Killer Queen.
That's
Yeah,
coming. Sorry.
But yeah, but good lyrics, good lyricist. Number 6 is, I think, really the first Queen hit, at least in the UK. From, I mean, this iconic album cover here from the second Queen album. That's, you know, needs to say no more. But anyway, the song is Seven Seas of Rye. This song first appeared at the end of the first Queen album in just a minute and a half instrumental. But fortunately, they kept working on it and made a really cool song out of it. It's heavy, but it's got piano in it, and it's jaunty.
I like it a lot too.
Yeah.
In fact, I debated putting it on my list instead of
Something else.
Another One Bites the Dust.
Okay.
We're at number 5.
We are at you're number 5. Yep.
You're My Best Friend.
From this rather worn copy of fantastic
It is
album,
rather.
Night at the Opera. You know, it's the single other than Bohemian Rhapsody that people would know. The average
This is
person would know from.
John Deacon.
This is a John Deacon song. John Deacon was the quiet bass player, but when he put pen to paper, he wrote fantastic songs, and a lot of them became Queen staples. Like Another One Bites the Dust is one of his. We're going to be hearing from another one coming up. But yeah, You're My Best Friend is just this nice little mellow pop song, very sincere.
It is, and I think that's what I like so much about it.
Yeah, beautiful
he's been with his
harmonies.
wife.
Yeah, I think he's still married to his wife, Veronica. I think.
And I know it was on our wedding playlist as well.
Yeah.
So it's sentimental.
Yeah, and I think it's another song that's more popular now than it was, because it wasn't a huge hit when it first came out. I think it was number 16. But again, I mean, you go from Bohemian Rhapsody to this. They're both very much Queen songs, and yet couldn't be more different. My number 4 or 5. My number 5 is, I think we'll be hearing from Sarah on this one too. Recently, I did my 1984, my top albums from 1984. I think this was number 2 or number 3 from The Works. This is a great album. And the song is I Want to Break Free, another John Deacon song. And this is a song that's definitely more popular now than it was when it first came out. It's
But I
pops up
understand it
everywhere.
was shunned at the time.
The video, believe it or not, the video was banned by MTV because of the cross-dressing, which is ridiculous. The whole video was a mockery of Coronation Street.
I just feel it's so quintessentially British.
Yeah, it's a very British thing, and
I
that's
love it.
and even like on the Queen documentary Days of Our Lives, they talked to Fred Mandel, who played keyboards on the song. He's played with a lot of different people, and he said it's very English. He said, I'm Canadian, so I understand it, but in the States, they you know, the conservative at the time, it's really hard. It's hard to fathom now, but the song finally got its due. It's a great song. It's like a simple little, again, it's John Deacon just writing these simple little ditties that you can just enjoy and sing along with after hearing just part of it. You're there, you're in the song. Yeah.
I agree.
So that's my number 5, so we're getting there.
Number 4, I have Killer Queen.
Where are we? Oh yeah. Sure Heart Attack album, also 1974, and the first
Olive
big.
green.
Yeah, it's an interesting color of this casing.
You don't have one like... Oh no, you do have a couple like that.
This is a U.S. Electra casing. Yeah, it is a weird color, isn't it?
Sorry that I'm distracted by the colors. He's got a wall of 8 tracks up above us, and that's what I was looking at.
They're
I
all
didn't
different color casings.
see a couple of greenish ones, but not the same level of like...
So Killer Queen was Queen's first international hit. I think it hit number 12 on Billboard, and it right away it's like Freddie. This is a Freddie song, and
you can tell.
he creates a character, and he pulls you into the story with his voice. You want to hear how this lady of the night turns out. And I just the
I
lyrics are
don't know
so
that I
clever.
realized that that's what.
Yeah, I love the to avoid complications. She never kept the same address, and like
Yeah, I know, and I sang along with it, but it didn't. I didn't clue into what it was about.
Freddie's
This
quote.
is usually a statement that you would make that you because you don't usually you're the one that doesn't listen or pay attention to lyrics. And
Well,
usually it's-
Freddie has a great quote. He had a great quote about this song, and I will say it. And he said something to the effect of, "Classy people can be whores too."
of course,
So
of course. But isn't the lyric? She spoke just like a baroness.
that's the rest of that lyric. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. A lot of fun. A lot of Queen songs are fun, even if they're heavy and rocking. You're enjoying yourself. They're full of life. Back to the Game album again. This album's taken a lot of beating. This 8-track's taken a lot of beating. Look at that corner of it. There's a hole in it here. This has been through the works. No pun intended. Anyway, Dragon Attack. This is Brian May wrote it. It's heavy. It's kind of funky. It was never a single or anything. This is one song that I always wanted to hear Extreme cover because I think they would have really done a great version of it. But
I can hear that.
I just bobbed my head. I love the little percussion break in the middle of it.
I know you love it too when it's played live.
Yes, yes.
We're at 3.
Yes.
I want it all. Can I say about this? So, taken from the album The Miracle?
The Miracle, yeah.
So this is one of the later ones, right?
Yeah, this is from 1989. By this time, Freddie Mercury knew he was ill, and there was no tour to support this album. So,
but it's fantastic, and there's different, and it's a heavier.
It's a Brian May song. See, Brian May typically, because he's a guitar player, he typically, not always, he typically brought the heavy songs. And when Queen did their final 2 albums in Freddie's life, they just did a full band credit to show solidarity. But over the years, it's like, well, this was actually his song, and this was actually his song. And then you look at it, and you go, well, that makes sense. That makes sense that this was this came from the pen of Brian May, and yeah.
It's a great song.
My number 3 is first Queen album I heard in its entirety when I first got into this band in '92. Again, from A Night at the Opera, the first track, "Death on Two Legs." It's a mean, nasty. It's an unusually acidic lyric from Freddie, and this is an example of a heavy song that Freddie wrote, but it was against their ex-managers because they weren't getting paid, and
A little bit of vitriol.
little bit of vitriol. They're starting to sell a lot of records. The managers, the stories go, the Deacons wanted a house. Freddie wanted a new piano. Oh no, we don't have, and yet the managers are showing up in new Rolls Royces, and something's not right here. So they got out of it, and they ended up with Jim Beach, who managed them for the rest of their career. So yeah, but it's a great song. It's almost, this is an example. I'd almost call this song progressive because it goes through so many different parts. It's got really quick stops and starts, and it's a great way to kick off one of their best albums because it packs in a lot, but you get a taste of what's to come. There's piano, there's heavy guitar, there's backwards parts, there's really cool harmonies, there's ear candy. They put a lot of ear candy in their albums, little things that just catch the ear, especially if you're listening on a good set of headphones. So that's my number 3.
Cool. Number 2 for me, The Show Must Go On.
Show Must Go On from Innuendo, the final album released in Freddie's life. This came out in February of '91, and Freddie died in November of '91. So powerful.
It is powerful. That was the word that I was going to use too. Yeah. It emotes. His voice, like you can feel. It's weighty. I don't know, and you can take it. You can look at it multiple ways ultimately, because it's true. No matter what you're going on, if you're a performer of that caliber, then you are expected to carry on, and the show must go on, right? You don't want to disappoint the fans, but
Yeah.
given what we know he was battling at the time.
And his vocal performance on it.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really powerful. Again, it's anthemic, and
That's true. I wouldn't have thought of it, but yes, it is.
it's fist in the air, and
Yeah.
and it's so fitting that
Overcoming.
it was the final song on that final album that that came out in his life, and it wouldn't have made any sense to open with it. Oh, there's one of the cats too.
It's Gordon.
So okay, so my number 2 is a song we've already talked about. It's on Hot Space, but originally it was a new song on the Greatest Hits from '91. Of course, I'm talking about Under Pressure. Yeah, I don't know what more to add to it, but I just love the song, and you know, certain things make us think of the kids. And when I think of this song, especially the video, I think of watching the videos with the kids. I think it was a New Year's Eve thing. We were taking turns picking videos to watch. And the Under Pressure video is very primitive. Like there's nobody's in it. It's just random footage. And there's a lot of black and white stock footage, but there's this footage of Nosferatu from the old horror movie. And they know what that is because of SpongeBob SquarePants. And as soon as that appeared on the screen, they're like, Nosferatu! So there's always a part of me that will think of that along with loving the song. So but it's a great song.
No, it is. So my number 1 we've talked about already, but it's I Want to Break Free.
Yeah, I Want to Break Free. It's interesting because the version that's on the Works album, I think in most countries, just starts off with the dun, 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 like it just comes right in with the music. But when I first got the Greatest Hits 2, and I heard it comes in with that grand, dun, 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 it's this majestic sounding synthesizer, and then it's a little bit different. And I love the keyboard solo that sounds like a guitar solo. That's Fred Mandel again doing the keyboard with a pitch bender, and yeah, it's fun. It's a fun song, and I'm glad people know it now more, because I remember when I first got the classic Queen CD in '92. It's the first time. No, wait a minute, it wasn't on that. When I first got the Works, I'm like, how come I've never heard this song before? And then I found out, well, it was a hit in most of the world. But
honestly, I'm just gonna say it's a travesty that it was not in North America.
it was really, it was like Queen's popularity. It's hard to believe now because their music continues, is just evergreen. It never loses popularity. But Queen's North American career was over by 1984, when that was the death knell. If MTV didn't play your video, Much Music really wasn't a factor at this point. But there was no U.S. tour, there was no North American tour to support the Works. That was it. And it wasn't until after Freddie died that people started to revisit the music. So it's just weird. It's a weird footnote.
It's sad to me too, because I feel like not even maybe 6-7 years later, that video would have done very well.
Yeah, it's campy. It's
campy,
hilarious.
that's
It's
what
not
it was
meant to be
intended to
taken
be.
seriously.
Exactly. And the tribute show that we saw last year,
Yes,
he wore the full costume.
that was the. It's a Kind of Magic, the Australian tribute, that are really, really good. There's a lot of them, so I wanted to point out it's that one.
Yeah, good point.
And they're extremely good.
But he was exceptional.
Yeah,
And
he
had
put
the whole
on
persona.
yeah.
I think he sat in someone's lap.
Yeah.
The stockings.
The wig and the mini skirt and the mustache and the
It was so great.
the
It was so
vacuum
much
cleaner. That's another thing about the video that I remember Marley messaging me when you guys were, I think, Christmas shopping, and there was a Queen Monopoly.
fun. Yes.
And one of the playing pieces was a vacuum cleaner, and Marley's like, "Why is this? What's the signal?" I'm like, "Oh, it's from the I Want to Break Free video." Oh, right.
Yeah.
We're proud of the kids, if you can't tell.
Of course.
Talk about and yeah, like I said, Queen's a band we all have in common. So yeah, great song. And my number 1, Sarah's already mentioned. It's I Want It All. I mean, I'm never not in the mood to hear this. Talk about anthemic. I'm surprised this song isn't a staple at sporting events. At the beginning of the game, I want it all and I want it now, like, championship, and it's either this or this is it, right?
Yeah, but
it's a great guitar driven song. It's not so heavy you can't enjoy it. It's got that fast part in the middle of it, which makes no sense, but I love it. I like the fact that Brian sings in the middle of it with Freddie.
I do too.
Yeah, it's
It's a nice little moment.
yeah. And again, this was a song
Yeah.
that unfortunately, like Freddie would have done. This would have been made for the stage, right? For him to project to crowds of people around the world, and he never got the chance, sadly. So.
Are you gonna end it on a downer?
But the recorded music, we've still got the recorded music, and I don't think there'll ever come a time when people won't be listening to Queen. I really don't. So I know we're missing classic upon classic. They've just got so many, and like I said, we could almost do a second version of this. But for a first run, this is our top 10
Personal
Queen songs. Yeah, personal.
10s.
Not claiming that these are the best. I would never do that. But what are some of yours? What are some of your songs, and why? What do they mean to you? Like, that's the other thing. A lot of these songs, they're not just songs you heard on the radio. They really speak to.
But that's what makes them your personal favorites,
Yeah.
though, right? So, I mean, as we go through each one of these, it means something very, like, there's a lot of sentimental pieces, and like we were talking about the ones that make us think of the kids, and
Yeah.
I think that's one of the best things about music.
Songs are little time
Connection.
machines.
Yes.
And for me, a lot of the deeper songs take me back to '92 because that's the year I got into this band, and when I started hearing getting all these albums, it was a treat to get to hear all this stuff for the first time. But yeah, that's our lists of the top 10 Queen songs. We hope you enjoyed. We want to know yours, and thank you for watching. We'll see you later. Tim's Vinyl
Bye.
Confessions.